Just loading up now. All right, Madam Chair, we are live.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to our October Library Board meeting, and we'll call the meeting to order. I have a motion here. I do know that we have an additional item to add to the agenda. Under discussion items, we'll be adding item E, which is strategic planning. So I have a motion here that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the meeting agenda as amended. Would someone like to move that? Alex, thank you. And seconded by Francois, thank you.
Madam Chair, before we start, just to let you know, I have a meeting at 6:30. So by 10 after 6, I think we should be fine. But by 10 after 6, I will have to leave for my next one. Thank you.
You are graciously excused.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. The second item is
declaration of pecuniary interest.
Yep, sorry, I just switched meetings in my head there momentarily to an earlier one. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, which is adoption of the minutes. So the motion reads that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the minutes of the September 9th, 2021 regular meeting as written. Someone like to move that, please? Francois, and seconded by Dave. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next motion is that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the minutes of the September 9th, or sorry, approves the minutes of the 2022 Library Services Budget meeting as written. Looking for someone to move that for me, please. Tony, thank you. Seconded by Jim. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
I thought of you the entire time, Jim, as I was writing those minutes up.
So we have no delegations. So we will move on to the consent items. And I will read the motion that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves, I have to keep flipping, all items listed under the consent items section of the agenda as presented. Someone like to move that? Tony, thank you very much. Seconded by Alex, thank you.
One question.
Alex, any discussion? Yes.
I had one question, Madam Chairman.
Yes, Jim.
Yes, the new LSA for Williamsburg is described as Cheryl T. And I wondered what T stood for. What's her last name?
Thompson, I do believe. Thompson.
Thompson?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just curious. I'll drop in and see her when you get a chance.
Yes.
Great. Any other questions or discussion on the consent items? Karen?
May I speak to a couple of items? With
Absolutely.
With your permission, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
Hang on one sec here. Let me grab it. So as you can see, we don't have. Hold on a second. Just to make sure I got things. We cannot have the circulation statistical summary or the systems librarian report at this time because our systems librarian is on leave. So I apologize for that. The full statistics for the second quarter of this year were the ones that I forgot to attach to the last agenda for September's meeting. But I would like to just to kind of very quickly go through a couple of items there. Those full statistics do represent our activities from April through June of 2021. And a couple of things that I took note of, although we see a small decrease percentage-wise in the number of ebooks and e-audiobooks that were circulated, that our digital collections still outnumbered our physical collections in terms of activity. Now that also, means that we had kind of restricted access to library branches, but it just kind of reflects how strongly the digital collection activity really has started to be at the library. And we are, trying to meet that demand as much as we can. Just prior to this meeting, actually, I fired out a few $1,000 more orders for digital collections. On the second page of those the full statistics, there is one number that I question, but because I can't speak with the systems librarian who prepared this report, I can't give you an answer on it yet. And that is juvenile program attendance at administration. I don't know what that means because unfortunately, we don't have kids here coming into the admin office. So I'm not sure what that is about, but I will check on that. Other than that, it looks good, but we also have to remember that this time last year in 2020, through this period, our branches were closed altogether. So, certainly in our circulation and whatnot, it's going to look very positive compared to having our doors shut. Okay, just wanted to point that out to you. I'm moving on to the financial report. I just wanted to also point out that we have not yet received our annual library operating grant. We've done all the paperwork and all the hoop jumping we're required to do. We're just waiting now for the province to do its part. And a couple of other things, we have not yet paid our annual lease rate to the transportation department for the use of the courier van. So it's still sitting there as very much a low number in the actuals versus what's budgeted. And just one other small thing is that you'll see an overage in our, pardon me, are we okay? You'll see an overage in our magazines, periodicals, and leased books. That does reflect a GL misappropriation of a payment to the wrong GL, but it also reflects that when we're leasing books, we've gone somewhat over budget on leasing. But what I do in that case is I will reallocate funds from our print material line to cover the lease material, because they're all print material. It's just one is a purchase and one is a lease. So I just move a little bit of the funds over to cover that. That's it for that. And I think that's about it for just things I wanted to highlight for you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, one more thing. Sorry. I can report just as of last week, we have a new library services assistant at our Maker Lab Finch branch, a woman named Jose Cousineau, who comes to us from working at Cornwall Public Library, and she is absolutely thrilled to be to land the position at the Maker Lab. She's very much engaged with it. She's keen, and she's ready to go. Okay.
That's great. I'll have to make a visit there then for her. So did anyone have any questions for Karen on that? Frank?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't see it in consent or basically on the agenda. Can you maybe just give us a brief gist of what where we're at with our celebration. I know Mrs. Atwood, I think, is booked. I'd seen the date somewhere, but maybe just give us. I see there's nothing relating to it on the agenda, and that's prior to our next meeting, I believe.
Yes, it is. Well, that event definitely will be coming in 17th of November. Leading up to that, there's something on our last, I think maybe our last page on this agenda, but we have also created a children's coloring contest with display possibilities and prizes being offered and whatnot for the 50th anniversary celebration. We also had a kind of a work bee situation where I think 350 or something cupcake kits were put together. We weren't in a position to offer cake at the branches, which we wanted to do. I wanted everybody to be able to come in and get a cake, but because we couldn't do that, we created these cupcake kits, and they were hugely popular. They've gone out, and those were our 50th anniversary celebration cupcakes in a jar event. I'm trying to think if there's been something else particular to the 50th anniversary. The library board's videos, the Storytime series are still in, some are published, some are still in production. Our host for this meeting tonight is kind of taking charge of some of the editing activities that go along with that. And let me think if there's anything else. I think that's basically it. We've created some branded library card holders with our 50th anniversary, so that and we've got new membership cards that have been printed and brought to us, so they're kind of starting to be given out to new memberships or to people who are interested. They like those card holders. So those are also things that have been prepared and are in the works and slowly being distributed out to the public.
Good. Thank you.
Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, who has chosen or who has volunteered to moderate the Atwood session?
Alan Neal from CBC Ottawa will be the moderator for the event. I'm going to be doing the initial introductions and providing a brief history, 50-year history of the library. Charlotte, our new community librarian, will be taking over the general hosting and making the introductions of Mr. Neal, and she's also taking the registrations for people to attend at this time, and is preparing a raffle, kind of not a raffle or things for people to place bids on, or whatever, not financial ones particularly, just interest ones. And she's also it keeps slipping my mind. Oh, she's receiving the questions that people might have from Ms. Atwood, and will be making the decisions on which ones will be given to Mr. Neal to ask during his fireside chat with Ms. Atwood.
Thank you.
Excellent. I've registered already. I would
Saw that.
encourage, I would encourage everyone to, if you haven't already done so. So we read the motion regarding approving all items under the consent items section. It was moved by Tony and seconded by Alex. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Okay. So we move on then to number 8, which are discussion items. And the first is policy development, our planning policy. So Karen, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hold on a second, but quite a ream of papers in front of me. There is something I would like to share with the library board, and if I can find it, with all the things I've got going on here, and put on the record. Hold on a sec. Losing my stuff. Hold on a sec here. I will look, I'll try to see if I can find it a little later on. I'm not sure exactly where I put it. But one thing I do want to emphasize, actually the basic of what I wanted to say is that, and get it on the record, is that we're meeting now on the third week of October in 2021, which is across Ontario Public Library Week. And this gives us an opportunity to reflect and to celebrate what public libraries mean to us, mean to our communities, and mean to our collective enrichment, I would say, of community life. I just really want to kind of make sure that everyone, realizes and has an opportunity to consider what your public library in your community really does mean for you, from a social, cultural, socio, and economic development perspective. It really is this, we should be standing on our chairs and shaking our pom-poms at this point, because this is really a wonderful time to be part of the public library scene and part of the Canadian library environment and art fabric. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, just as far as this planning policy goes, we've never had a planning policy here at the SDG Library. It is recommended by the Ontario Library Service, by Ontario Library Association, that a library board does try to formalize its planning process. It is very, very, very easy in the course of daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly operations to lose sight of what our goals are, what our objectives are, to perhaps get kind of caught in the weeds and really, fail to envision what it is we want the library to do and to become. And it is the library board's, one of your key responsibilities is to shine that light on the future you envision for library services in your community. So taking the lead from the Ontario Library Service as to what what a planning policy could look like, I have drafted what you see in front of you. It is really just a first step as a discussion item for you to consider and for you to put forth your ideas and your preferences, and to what the wording would be like, and that kind of thing. But what it does is formalize your commitment to the planning process, and it is the responsibility of each board that is formed and serves for the 4 years that of a term, that you look at the whole idea of planning and facing forward and thinking about going forward. So that's what's gone into this first draft. And I have highlighted a couple of things in red, of course, because it is a first draft. We don't know when you will want to formally approve it and move it into reality. And also, I certainly kept in mind timing, that some of this policy, or some of this draft that you see, was taken from, and I think you might remember back in the day, the Southern Ontario Library Service had a fictional ideal library called the Trillium Library. And so some of this policy is a total crib of the Trillium Public Library's planning policy. And in that, it states that the library board shall, at the end of the first and third years, develop a formal planning document. Well, that sounds lofty. And I'm not sure whether that's, we've got the wherewithal or the desire to be that short term in the whole planning process, or whether it's something that you think we should be engaging in at once during your term. Anyway, that's where I've left that. Another area that I've included in the related documents section of the planning policy are our current mission statement and our current vision statement. These were pounded out with great levels of discussion and tossing words back and forth and rejecting sentences and including sentences during the term of the last library board. They may not be appropriate to be included in a policy, but I did want to at least put them in this draft so that you could be reminded of what our mission statement is, what our vision statement is, and maybe take that as a starting point for thinking about the next one, or whether you want to continue the current one. If you wanted to continue the current one, I would suggest that keeping these words or these sections in this policy is warranted. If you want to change, then I would suggest we just do, remove them altogether at this point. And that's all I've got right now on that. So I'm going to open it up now for board members to kind of discuss and share what you think about things and what you'd kind of like to see.
Any questions for Karen? Frank, please. Or sorry, Tony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just whenever Karen mentioned to this end, the library board shall at the end of the first and third years, and the question mark, I think that until it's really refined and there's a good plan moving forward with a good commitment to the future plan and buy-in, I think maybe at the end of the first year you would review it at the end of the third year and then spend time either getting ready for the first of the next library board term, or make notes on that. I think to bite into it and to take two big stabs at it in 4 years would be a lot of time. It'd be a lot of time, and I think we need to have it settle in our stomachs and our minds and in our hearts, and see it through for a few years before we start quickly making changes. And that's my thought when I went through this the other day. I was thinking that seems like a lot of changes before anything comes to fruition.
I would also, thank you. I would also agree that at the end of the first year, I mean, most library board members have barely gotten their feet wet in terms of understanding, the various areas of governance and decision making that a library board has to do. It would have to be a pretty forceful library board that was willing to jump into a planning process at the end of its first year of its term. I don't wonder, I mean, we're coming to the end of our third year, and now we are just at the point where we are starting to talk about developing a formal planning document for the next board that will be coming in at the end of next year. And it is a process that takes several months and a lot of discussion and a lot of board engagement. And, so I'm not even sure that the third year is the time to be considering it. So that's why I put it in red. It was a red flag for me as soon as I saw that. So,
Tony? You're on mute, Tony. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. You should be happy. To Karen's comments and about her, I don't want to say hesitation, but her thoughts on the big chunk. Maybe we should also put on the table, considering that at the end of the second year, develop a formal planning document, which would carry us, allow us to become comfortable, and the new members or the new board comfortable with the plan that came from the previous board and allow it to see it through and learn, and then take from what we've learned in the first years and develop one for the following two, and to lead the next board in with some direction so they can make changes midway through their term. Just another thought to them. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Karen, if you don't mind. Why didn't we have a planning policy before now? And secondly, when does our current strategic plan end? Like, what years was it for?
I do not know why we've not had a formal planning policy. I do know that this is just in my experience, and I think this is the third or if not fourth library board that I've worked with since I joined the SDG library myself. But I know that sometimes boards just like to get things done and make decisions on things, whereas this is the kind of work, I mean, and you know, our discussion section of our monthly agenda is where the real, I think, where the real work happens, and where the real engagement, and where the real, you know, we figure things out, and we talk about things, and we you know, explore best practices, et cetera. So that's possible that, you know, with an urge or desire to get things done, that we maybe haven't had taken the time in the past to have these discussions. And so that's the answer to the first one. Is as far as the current strategic plan that we're working with, which I think you were involved with, Margaret, it is for 2018 to 2022.
That's
Okay.
what I thought. I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And I may have mentioned that in the past as well. We did do the last strategic plan, or the current one that we're still working with, in-house. It did provide us with times of great discussion, especially as we were looking at mission statements and vision statements. But I'm not sure that it had that, you know, that really forward-thinking quality to it as much as maybe it could. But we did, you know, we did a good job. We did it in-house, and we've been able to work with it. I think we're ready for something more visionary going forward. So then we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Good.
Any other questions or comments for Karen? We'll just consider this a draft at this point then, Karen. And
okay, if anyone would like, please give it some more, like another look over. It does have the blessing, for lack of a better term, of being largely a policy out of the box, you know, from a respected source. So in that way, you know, it does have good bones to it. But if there are other aspects that we should be considering in a planning document, I think I'm going back to what Tony said earlier, the timing should be something that really gives some real thought to, because I mean, you now have not all of you, sorry, but you've had the opportunity to see what at least 3 of a 4-year cycle looks like. Next year, I promise you, is going to be quite heavy. I mean, it's certainly going to be an emphasis on my workload, but also in terms of our board meetings, it's going to be a big year for talking about what we envision, what we think works, what our community needs, what library services could and should look like for the next 3 to 5 years anyway in SDG. So just let you know that will be taking place, and that will be during your 4th year. So it will be kind of, you know, a succession document, a legacy document, a plan for the future, and just be prepared for that. Okay.
Okay. All
We'll
right.
leave that for the time being.
Yeah, I think I'm just with Tony in terms of the timing part of it.
Okay.
I understand that we're going to be working on it next year out of necessity.
Yeah,
but
this is the document that sets how that planning process is going to go.
I understand.
So,
Yeah.
so it's when we can figure out that timing, I think that's going to be a big piece of finalizing this document. And then if there's nothing else, then we can probably just approve it at our December meeting, if that's the case, and move on. So I just kind of need some more feedback from board members as to what they feel the planning cycle should be.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Karen. And then I'll let you continue with the OLBA newsletter.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether everybody would receive it. I think Alex probably does not receive it, and possibly Dave has not received it at this point, outside of being in your board meeting agendas, which is why I included it. So because we're doing this month is so much about advocacy and celebration of the library and good things that the library boards are doing. I wanted to include that as well. I did highlight a couple of things here. One, first of all, I want to acknowledge that Carrie Badgley, who's the editor of the newsletter and is on the North Grenville Public Library Board, is an absolutely wonderful individual. And if you get a chance to speak with Mr. Badgley at any time, at any function, please treat yourself to doing so. He's a wonderfully positive and supportive person and board member. He's a pretty nice guy, pretty cool.
I can attest to that. Yeah.
And one of the things I've highlighted in what he said is that, we were able to dream and construct a building, for heaven's sake, and that libraries are wonderful spaces that we should take pride in all the things that we as members and as boards are able to achieve for libraries. So the other thing I wanted to bring out in this area was, the OLBA president encouraging members to take advantage of the fact that the boot camp is going to be, the board boot camp is going to be virtual, and that as many of our board members as possible should try to attend, because it will be such a rewarding day and such a fantastic opportunity to hear best practices, learn from other boards, and be able to showcase a little bit as well what you have accomplished as a board. I think it's a really, really valuable opportunity that board members should try to take advantage of if possible. I mean, there's areas in the OLBA member surveys, so there's some unevenness, and most board members have good relationships with their municipalities. I think it should be a given, quite frankly, that a library board's priorities are aligned with the municipalities to some extent. I mean, they are our major funder, and as you know, we achieve greater success together than apart. So I strongly advocate for that, and we will be looking at that more as we get into the strategic planning process more. And then finally, the piece written by Mr. Badgley about the North Grenville Public Library was delightful, absolutely delightful. And I would just want to share that this was my very first library board meeting as the then acting manager of library services, before my title became a director, was to take the library board on a little bus tour over to Kempville, to the North Grenville Public Library back in 2012. And it was great. It was absolutely great. The bus ride was fun. There was, of course, there's that camaraderie that kind of builds when you're cooped up in a tin can rolling down the road together. And the library itself was absolutely beautiful. At the time, back in 2012, their collections were maybe a little rough, but I think they had invested so heavily to get a beautiful library built that, you know, the collections were something to come later. I like the fact that they mentioned that their fundraising efforts were coordinated with their Friends of the Library, because neither the board nor the Friends could dedicate the necessary time and resources to a large and intensive fundraising effort like that. And that the board itself undertook a lot of study and work to determine the site, acquiring the property, figuring out what they wanted, looking, you know, talking with architects, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a really, really good story about a kind of some maybe slightly fractured, but certainly, you know, just starting to come together, community, putting their resources together and building a beautiful library that still is wonderful to visit to this day. That was that. So I just wanted to share that with you. I have been in touch with the Ontario Library Board Association to try to make sure that Dave and Alex both have OLBA membership status and privileges, and I will ensure that both of you get that information that gives you those privileges as soon as they respond to me. I have reached out to them a few times, and I think all of our inboxes are screaming right now. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that, Karen. Yeah, I love that library too. When we have our regional meetings, we often have them there. And yeah, if you haven't visited, it's gorgeous. I mean, they have a fireplace, like it's so cozy. It's unbelievable. It's just gorgeous.
They have a program space in that library that is huge, but it can be divided with a moving wall and create two smaller rooms. It becomes so versatile and so useful, and it's wildly well used by the community.
It's beautiful. Okay, I'll let you carry on, Karen, with the Lancaster branch.
Yeah,
study.
What you have in front of you, and I'm sorry that we don't have Lyle with us here. Maybe he's got more than what I've been able to provide you. This was the slide deck that was actually presented to the South Glengarry Council back the end, late September, mid to late September, showing what the architect Rayside Labassière had come up with as an updated evaluation and feasibility study for Lancaster branch. Right off the bat, one of the things that really impressed me was that the facility would, getting close to triple the size of what it currently has now. It is our smallest branch. It even is smaller than, possibly the same size as Williamsburg, but not much bigger than Williamsburg. So if it was the expansion was realized to bring it up to 2,400 square feet, which still isn't quite within provincial guidelines, but it's a whole lot closer. It's more in line with our Ingleside branch, somewhat bigger than our Morrisburg branch. I'm not sure. I don't think it's quite as big yet or maybe a bit bigger than Winchester branch, but I'm not quite sure of that. But one of the other things is an expansion would allow us to almost double the size of our collections at that branch. And right at this point, we are so restricted in how many offerings we can have, whether it be books or DVDs or seats for people to work at, or computer stations or programming space or anything else because of its very small size. I don't have a whole lot more. I know I put in my report that I was meeting yesterday or tomorrow with, I think maybe tomorrow, with the architect and the CAO of South Glengarry to talk about next steps, but that meeting has been postponed until November the 5th. So I can't really talk much about that. In talking with Lyle somewhat, he feels that there is a will and or a desire, at least at the council level, to pursue something, but of course funding is the real question in it. Yeah, I had a very quick look at the total cost, and if my memory serves me correctly, the total cost for that addition would be maybe, I don't know, not that far off what was paid by the municipality of South Dundas to build the Williamsburg branch back in 2013 or whatever it was. So that's kind of what's there. I think you as a library board can be influential in helping county council, certainly, but also maybe giving some voice to at the local level to see if this is, if you feel that this is a desired or sought after addition. We are pretty much stalled in terms of what we can do at Lancaster branch currently. So, and it is the only municipally provided branch in South Glengarry, which, you know, contributes largely to the county coffers, and which leads into the library's coffers, operating coffers. But we are where we are with it. So certainly the pandemic, this started as because we found ourselves so restricted in what we could do during the pandemic, and because there was a capital grant potential. So that's what started it for me, was to reach out to the local council to see if we could get them interested in trying to do something with it. And this is how far we've gotten so far.
Any questions for Karen? I just have a general question. Tony, Frank, or Dave could answer it. The county council meetings I've been watching them on Zoom, tuning in live, but are members of the public allowed to attend at this point or not?
I'll jump right in. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And then Frank might have better insight, but I haven't seen members of the public attend, and but I've seen, we had Mr. Pitts from South Nation Conservation at the most recent meeting, and I guess he would have been invited to speak on behalf of the forestry, but we're meeting. It is quite odd that we have people coming in, and I know at North Dundas we have the press coming in, but as for residents or audience members, if you would, or members of the public to come in, they haven't ventured in. I think it's because the accessibility through YouTube or Facebook that's caused people to not feel the need to enter. And I'm not sure. I'll turn that over to Dave and Frank, but that's why I'm seeing it. The public is somewhat there, but they're not in attendance.
Karen, you?
Yeah, I think you're right, Tony. I think I'm going to call it the ease of tuning in virtually has had the effect of making even the press, even members of the press don't seem to show up to take notes during a meeting, or to try to meet with individual members after a meeting or something like that. I do know that there would certainly be a requirement to, provide proof of vaccination, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's a given at this point. But I can check that. I can check into that more for you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Sorry, I actually have a question. I have an answer from our friend Todd here. Hold on just a sec.
Okay.
Okay. What does he
Sorry,
say?
Madam
He
Chair,
says-
I'm not on the agenda and I'm not part of the committee, but I can answer that question for you.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as it stands right now, the members of the public are not allowed to attend council meetings. It's strictly a case of not having enough square footage within the council chambers to accommodate staff as well as members of council. So as a result, the meetings are closed to the public, but they are being streamed on YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
I had hoped to be there for our budget meeting, but if that's the case, then I'll certainly be tuning in live for that. So that's fine. That was just a follow-up question. Thank you. Karen, then I will let you continue with the 2021 Canadian Library Month activities, some of which you've already touched on, but
I see. Yeah. So I just very, very quickly, you know, the cupcake in a jar, the coloring contest, featuring the library's logo. Charlotte is working really hard to enliven or reopen the SDG library shop and build some interest in it as we start getting closer to maybe Christmas shopping season. And from what I understand, there's not going to be anything on the shelves for anyone to buy anywhere else. You might as well buy gifts for your family and friends at the library shop. The story time to go series was, I think, our second one is, and I'm not quite sure what the logistics behind the story time to go series works, but just some templates and on themes are prepared, and with some crafting ideas, and maybe some of the ingredients for some of those crafting activities are included. And families that are interested can go into their branch of choice and pick up a little bag kit, and staff can also use the templates to create like a bigger package kind of thing for families to take. So, and one thing we quite like about it is that this second or third one that we've created since during the pandemic, this one is now fully bilingual. We're very proud of the fact that we've developed that to be able to be used by our Francophone families, English families, doing immersion education, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been like a cool thing. The T-shirt you see me in, that was actually just a blank navy T-shirt that we used our cricket machine that's housed in the Maker Lab, and every staff person got one of these T-shirts, and so we've made a point of wearing these shirts throughout the system, in branches or here at admin. I wore mine on a Friday as I'm allowed to dress down a bit on Fridays. So that was kind of a cool thing. And then I mentioned as well, we've got the library cards. I think I'm holding 2 of them and Charlotte's holding 3 of them. We're still waiting for another shipment to come in that's been kind of draggled back in with 1 or 2 other new colors. I think a blue color. And then we have in the past we've given away as incentives these kind of rubbery library card holders, but we got new ones branded for our 50th anniversary, and people love them. People absolutely love them. So there we go. Okay, we're pretty happy about that.
that's cool. I have to get some of those.
They'll be at your branch. Waiting for you.
Dave.
Thank you. Before I get into the events, I had a couple of questions. Maybe they can be answered very quickly, and then I'll get into a couple ideas I have. Number one, do we have laminators at the libraries or any of the branches? A big thing right now is these passports. In some cases, people want them laminated. they don't all have the QR, or they don't intend to, and they're not. Everybody's not 100% safe carrying those, especially when you're traveling abroad with the QR on your phone or whatever device you have. I know they're backed up at the print shops to get their vaccination papers laminated. So I just wondered if we had some.
We do not. We have one laminator. It is housed here at admin, and it is used actually by all departments at the counties. We only have the one. One idea that I heard about through my various listservs was to use waterproof paper and do it. So I'm very short-staffed here at admin. I don't have an administrative assistant, someone who would normally procure, supplies for us. So that I have not had a chance to see what this waterproof paper would be like. I've also been told that the laminators in some cases tend to smear or almost kind of melt the ink a little bit as the paper is going through the laminator. So it has had fairly mixed reception or mixed results. So I personally, I would prefer, well, like we can't afford to buy laminators for 15 branches at this point. And also I would kind of prefer to try out the waterproof paper method rather than, but at this point, we're also doing it for free for people. So.
Okay, so the airports and borders aren't accepting laminated anyway. But I did get some laminated, and what I did is I didn't use the original paper. I photocopied it and then laminated it so it didn't smear. The other thing is I made several other copies and I put them inside the page protectors and cut around it. Mm-hmm. And that way I was able to fold it and put in my wallet. But anyway, I just thought if we had laminators, we can put that out there. My next question is, I brought it up briefly once before, and Tony had mentioned I should bring it up again. It was about Bibles in the library, e-Bibles, as a matter of fact. Do we have enough to circulate if people are asking for them? And if they know we have them, maybe they will start asking for them?
I honestly don't know. And I would have to get back to you about that because I don't have the catalog open, unfortunately. I'll get back to you.
Oh, okay. Now, forgive me if I'm if I'm out of whack here or outside the box. I'm new on this, and it might be something that was brought up before and didn't work, or it just was thought of to be a bad idea. But I was thinking of especially now doing a library card promotion, and there's different ways we can do that promotion. And I know it's we don't have time, being that there's no meeting in November, but we don't have time to do it for Christmas. But I do a gift card promotion at Christmas time in South Stormont, and it's absolutely fantastic. We sold like $18,000 worth of gift cards last Christmas, and it really helped all the businesses who weren't doing cash business. They're selling gift cards that were to be redeemed later. But anyway, I thought if we had a library card promotion where somebody but if somebody enrolled and got a library card, their name would go into a draw and they could win a gift card at the end of the month or whatever term we decide. And also go one step further. And for our library card members, our library members, if they bring someone to the library, then they also go into a draw.
We have done that before, and it was successful. It's been several years now, but we have done that.
To a point where we can make it a little competition between branches, and see which branch could enroll or get more gift cards, get more library cards out there. And I know some branches are bigger than others, but we can work it on percentages in a way. But it's just, I thought it'd be a way to get people back into the library, some new people. People are competitive, and there's enough out there that might generate, some more interest. But anyway, and as far as the branches go, I don't know if we can afford it or if it's a good idea, but I thought that maybe the branch that sold more, not side, why do I keep saying sell? That gets
businessman.
More, library cards, they can maybe win a nice big screen TV for their library, so they can have some special presentations for groups for their kids or for adults, for something that 5, 6, 7 people can all part in at once.
Mhm.
It'd be a nice addition to any branch. And big
Written
screen TVs aren't that expensive anymore, not like they were. Anyway, it's just a food for thought. I just want you to know that I do think about our library board, and I'm getting my feet wet, but there's some ideas.
I've written every single one of them down, Dave. Thank you.
As have I. Thank you.
All right. Well, I hope I'm not wasting any time, but
Never. Suggestions always welcomed. And those are good questions. Thank you. So any other questions for Karen? Okay. Then Karen, I'll let you continue on with your addition to the agenda on strategic planning, please and thank you.
Once again, I've got papers like you would not believe lying around here, and everything's, of course, my whole agenda has gotten like spread out over 4 piles now.
Don't make me come visit you before every meeting, and
Anyway, okay. What I want to know is I have been looking at our purchasing policy. I have the authority as a director to determine purchases up to a $50,000 limit. In the course of preparing our budget, my budget presentation to you earlier this month, one of the things I did was to reach out to my colleagues in library land and to reach out to a few consultants that I have heard about or worked with, and to kind of get an idea of how much a strategic plan costs. It's varied. It's quite varied. I mean, I've got a list in front of me here: 38,000, 30,000, 40,000, 35,000, 20,000. One quote for 268,000.
Whoa.
3,000, 25,000, 18,500, 45,000, 35,000, et cetera, from municipalities across the province. I also reached out to 3 companies or consultant agencies based on what I heard from my colleagues in library land and from experience. And I got 3 different kind of price tags. So that's what the information that I came up with to put the figure together that I did for our budget discussions. However, so having looked at the purchasing policy and whatnot, I kind of would like to get some direction from the library board on whether you think it would be appropriate to reach out to 3 or 4 companies or agencies and get a formal quote from them for consultation, strategic planning services. One, I will mention right now that council members, when council was going through a strategic planning process, dealt with a woman from the Kingston area. And if you will remember the day we spent out in Long Sault, those of you who were council members on the board, you remember the facilitator, the consultant that we dealt with there. And I found her remarkable, what she was able to get everybody together doing. Sometimes like trying to get diverse people together is a little bit like herding cats. She did a really good job, I thought, in that. And I think that I can't speak for everybody, but I think, the end result was something that council was quite happy with. I also reached out to a woman she works at Brampton Public Library now, full-time, but she also has a consultancy with a partner in doing strategic planning or visioning exercises for libraries specifically. The first person I talked about is, I'd say, more of a generalist. The second person is, library centric. And she provided me with an hourly rate. And she also told me she doesn't do a full job. She gets the library board, kind of set up and with some guidance. But the library board is doing the work, including writing the plan. And the third company I reached out to, based in the GTA area, was recommended to me to consider by my colleague at the Stratford Public Library, and they phoned me up and we had a phone conversation. And basically what I was told was, well, if you want something different, we're the people to come to. But I know they're also very expensive. They said in the 50K range for possibly to do some community engagement, and then to, they would also create our value statement and give us 12 hours to write a strategic plan. I have to tell you, we do not have the capacity here at Library Services to do a whole lot of the actual legwork, community engagement works, all of that. Certainly writing the final document, we're pretty strapped for people, but I have this authority to put it out there to, a select number of companies and try to get a quote from them if we think we know what it is we want. And I would suggest we want that community survey. We want however the situational analysis or the environment scan, or however you want to call it. I think we probably have the means and the ability to kind of consider, what is our vision? I mean, you plant yourself in the now and you think ahead 5 years. And what do you want to see? That's basically how a visioning exercise is taken care of. And then there's the, developing the goals and objectives. What is it we want to do and how is it we're going to do them? So those, I mean, I could put out a request for proposals. That's a huge undertaking as well to try to kind of figure, put all of the criteria and parameters together to even put out that request for proposal. If we have a better idea, or if we have a pretty good idea of what we want, and can simply put out a request for quotes, and if we can get those quotes in for less than $50,000, we're kind of speeding up our process a bit already. And I just wanted to know what you people think about that.
If I could just add one point, Karen and I had a bit of a discussion about this, and it would simply be, getting the quotes. Nothing would be spent, obviously, until budget was approved.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So it would just be simply the back and forth sort of negotiation or outlining of what it is that we want and what these individuals or companies can or will provide. And it would put us in a position that once our budget is approved, we would have that information already in order to make a decision at that time. So
I would also like to add, if I may, Madam Chair, for our December meeting, it might behoove us well to ask Peggy Malcolm, our Ontario Library Service consultant. They're not doing full strategic planning services anymore, but as a consultant, she could be quite helpful to us to come to our December meeting to help us, you know, pin down, this is, you know, first we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and you know, this is what the expectation should be. And I think she would be willing to do that for us. It might be a small fee, but I know they don't, I know Ontario Library Service is not charging much at all for to come to a board meeting and give a consultation.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, because I do have a motion here that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board authorizes the Director of Library Services to obtain 3 quotes of no more than $50,000 plus HST for externally facilitated strategic planning services to be brought back to the board for decision at its next regular meeting. Would someone like to move that motion? Dave? And would someone like to second that?
I'll second it, but I have a question. So in regards to moving forward with this, do we like to go with last month, or at the beginning of the month, I guess on the 1st, we had our budget meeting? Like, I don't believe, was that brought up, like, has Rebecca sanctioned that it's in line with what the money that we would put towards 2022's budget to have us go ahead with a $50,000 strategic plan? So
yes, sorry, that was the figure that was determined that it could come, it actually could come out of some of our COVID funding that the counties has. It could be used to alleviate that. I do believe, I might have missed that a little bit, but I do believe, but it's definitely that $50,000 was the figure. If I'm not mistaken.
It was included. I look back at my notes, and it was included in our budget estimate.
And I didn't know if it was brought up by the board, but I'm not sure if it was sanctioned by, but so I
Yes.
just to go ahead, if it's not, to go ahead and make people go ahead and get quotes where we're not sure, but if it's in line with our plan, then yeah, I will second that.
Okay.
Modernization funding is where the
That's
pot of
it.
gold is.
That's it. And this would simply allow Karen to come back with some, you know, some more fulsome like quotes around what it is that people are offering. And, you know, we don't necessarily have to accept any of the quotes. At the end of the day, they're coming to us for decisions. So it's simply, if we want to move forward, it will give us the opportunity to do it in a more expedient fashion. So all those in favor? Okay, so that's carried. Thank you very much for that.
I appreciate that very much. The idea of being able to get started on strategic planning early in the new year is really good for me.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention one thing. The strategic planning exercises that we are going to be undergoing, and, you know, even meeting with Peggy, if it's at our next meeting or a subsequent meeting, I think it's important that we do them in person as much as we can as a group. I don't know that Zoom is the best medium for something like that. I think it would work better as a group in either a library branch that will accommodate us or within council chambers. We could make arrangements for that. But I think just mentioning that, and Tony will be talking about scheduling and that kind of thing as well, but just a flag that we will have to physically get together for these meetings. I think it's critical that we do. And as well, it was just mentioned, you know, I was asked if the library board was ever going to meet in person again. So having said that, that's in that line as well. I've asked Karen to look at our schedule for next year, which she'll be coming out with very shortly, to look at which branches are big enough to accommodate us so that we're not, you know, we can be safely physically distanced with no concerns, and or holding them at council chambers if we are able to get the room. So I'm just letting people know that you might start seeing a few more in-person meetings. That's not to say we can't do meetings by Zoom, because I know how convenient it is. And I know for some of our members, it is, I mean, it's just so much more simple. I get that, but there will be times that we will and should start getting back together as much as possible. So having said that, there is no in-camera session for this evening. So I have a motion, unless someone else has any questions or concerns, that the regular meeting of the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board be adjourned to meet again. I've put virtually. We'll leave it at that, Karen, until we find out maybe about Peggy's availability.
Okay.
Would that be to meet again virtually on Thursday, December 9th, 2021 at 4:30 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Would someone move that for me, please? Tony, thank you. And seconded by Jim. Thank you very much.